Welcome back. Great to have you with us on Prime Biz. Now, South Africans are feeling better about the economy, more optimistic about their finances. A gauge of consumer confidence has jumped to an all-time high. The FNB Bureau for Economic Research Consumer Confidence Index swung from a pessimistic reading of -8 to a strong positive reading of +26 in the first quarter of this year. It's the largest jump on record. Now, the index is based on consumer surveys that were done between the 26th of March and the 26th of February, and the 8th of March. That was the period, remember, after President Cyril Ramaphosa had been sworn in and had already delivered his State of the Nation address, and after the budget speech had been delivered. The surge in confidence was more than expected, and it comes after 3 years of pessimistic results. PwC says it's not surprising, and the surge in consumer confidence reflects Ramaprogress, or confidence in the ability of President Ramaphosa to deliver change. It says the new administration under him has already implemented 19 key promises from the State of the Nation address. To discuss, we're joined by PwC economist Christie Viljoen, live from our studio in Cape Town. Thank you for being with us. Christie, this is good news. People may be feeling better, but does it tangibly change things on the ground?
That's obviously a very good question. These surveys ask people of their opinion, what they think of their current and future situation. What we would need to see is obviously some good economic data coming from this. Now, during this period that we had this survey, there was already positive revisions to GDP growth data, but the proof will be in the pudding when we see retail sales coming out in the next few months. That'll give us a definite indication of if consumers are actually spending.
And this is even better, this +26, than when we learned that we would be hosting the World Cup. Like you say, it could moderate in future, but how exciting is this new reading right now of +26?
Oh, it's an amazing reading. I think we all expected a positive number in the first quarter after those 3 negative years. We all know there's been positive economic and political developments, so I'm not surprised that we've got a big positive number. I am definitely surprised at how big it was. It's quite reasonable to expect that the second quarter number will not be as strong. Historically, this kind of a jump has been followed by a little bit of a moderation, and obviously during the second quarter, consumers would have to experience the impact of, for example, the increase in the VAT rate. So very good news, very happy to see it, but the next number will probably be a bit lower, so we shouldn't be surprised when that happens.
So maybe some of the euphoria displaced, but was this all around President Cyril Ramaphosa coming in?
Definitely. He's made important announcements, he's made important promises and delivered on many of them. We looked at the State of the Nation address. We found about 26 actionable promises. Now, those are promises that you could reasonably expect him to be able to act on within the first few months of his presidency. And by our count, he's made moves on about 19 of them. This includes, for example, the promise of a job summit, of an investment summit, changes he's made that make positive headlines that last year would have been negative, maybe around state-owned enterprises, for example. But what he's done so far this year is make positive changes, and consumers see this. They see this in the media, and this forms their positive expectations. And then when we see a survey like this, where people are asked, what do you think about your finances over the next year? What do you think about the economy over the next year? They reflect this kind of optimism that we are seeing in the new president.
And when they are optimistic, they do indeed spend, which may feed into things like retail sales, home sales, etc., right?
That's correct. We would obviously like to see people spend more. Luckily, on some of the good points that we've recently seen, inflation has come down, especially food price inflation. This has led to a cut in the interest rate, so that's also a positive point for consumers. The new minimum wage, which is going to be implemented very soon, another positive point. The work being done on increasing the amount of goods that are zero rated from a VAT perspective, that's more good news. So what we would like to see is that this positive sentiment actually translates into spending. The same goes for business confidence, obviously, that businesses use the cash that they have on hand to invest in capital equipment. These are factors that are needed To get the economy going, we need expenditure in order to get economic growth up, in order to create jobs, in order to get this economy on a much faster speed than it has recently been.
Christie, we brought up on the screen there this index which has turned around dramatically, and it is exciting. 19 out of 26 now. Let's go back to Ramaphosa's tangible promises that you found in the State of the Nation address. What has he not delivered on?
Well, some of the things obviously take time. We cannot expect him to make significant changes, especially on the political level. One example is the cabinet change. I think there's lots of reasons why certain political leaders are in the new cabinet. There are certain political leaders that I think a broad part of society would rather have replaced. But obviously internal political factors within the ruling party makes that the president needs to balance different interests. He needs to take his time. He has committed towards making sure that the government is running more smoothly. He's made a promise, for example, to relook the cabinet and the composition of government departments towards next year's election. So that obviously takes some time. You can't expect that to happen immediately. So he is obviously but he's obviously working on a long-term plan for South Africa. And we've seen early gains, as some people say, the low-hanging fruits have been picked. Now we have to get into the difficult work. Some of these things will take some time to deliver.
So like you say, still very serious claims around several politicians. This week, SAA talking about bailouts, needing that till 2022. I think Eskom, possible cuts in winter. So you've already hinted at this, saying that the consumer confidence could moderate in coming months. But how bad could that come down be? Could we really come down hard, or are you positive that he will still have the room to maneuver and keep on implementing positive changes, our president?
I'm quite certain that consumer confidence is going to remain positive. Even if we get notably lower reading in the second quarter, it'll remain positive. I think the momentum behind the new administration is building. We saw in the recent weeks the announcement of envoys that will be going abroad to collect investment. This will culminate in an investment summit during August or September. We'll continue to get good news about these developments. I'm sure the president will make sure that South Africans can see the progress. The chance that he goes quiet and works behind closed doors is very small. We see him jogging. We see him taking regular airplane flights. Those things will continue. We'll continue to see progress. And I think the economic data coming out in the next few months will also support this view that the South African economy is doing better. So consumers will probably reflect a continued positive sentiment when next they are surveyed in the second quarter of this year.
All right, thank you very much. Much needed good economic news, and really consumer confidence soaring in the first quarter of this year and at its best level ever recorded, the biggest jump between last year and this year. So let's hope it lasts. That was Christie Viljoen live from